You and your rules. What do you know about human suffering? You're some space freak looking down on us, preaching storybook wisdom. You don't have the right. That's what Lois knew. You're not even one of us. How dare you decide who lives and who dies? Now look what's happened. Now look. Batman v Superman has always been one of the most compelling ideas in superhero storytelling, a clash of ideologies between two of the most iconic characters ever created. Before Zack Snyder's 2016 film brought the concept to life, an earlier version of the story was being developed in the early 2000s under the direction of Wolf Gang Peterson. This version of Batman v Superman promised to explore the heroes' later lives, diving deep into the themes of grief, loneliness, and moral ambiguity in a world still reeling from the cultural shifts of the post 9/11 era, exploring Batman and Superman as seasoned heroes grappling with personal loss and the erosion of their ideals. In this video, I'd like to take a look through the story of Wolfgang Peterson's BVS, exploring its history, themes, and story, and comparing it to Zack Snyder's version of the movie. In Batman v Superman, one gripping similarity in both versions of the film is how Lex Luthor uncovers the secret identities of Batman and Superman. It's thrilling to watch him use that knowledge to create chaos. But in real life, having your identity compromised is far from exciting, and that's why I'm thrilled to say that this video is sponsored by Aura. Have you ever had to deal with constant spam calls, scam emails, and phishing texts that never seem to stop, or worried about how much of your personal information is circulating out there? I know I have, and let me tell you, it's a very scary thought that my online activity is not as private as I once thought. This is where luckily Aura comes in. Aura is an all-in-one solution for keeping your online identity safe with features like Data Broker Opt-out. Aura can help remove your personal information from data brokers and people search sites that sell your information to scammers and identity thieves. Aura is also packed with other features like an antivirus which protects your device from malware and ransomware, and a VPN that encrypts your internet connection, helping to block phishing sites. And this is only a taste of what Aura can offer. What are you waiting for? Click the link in my description and try Aura for free for 2 weeks. That's more than enough time to find out if your personal information is exposed. Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. In the early 2000s, Warner Bros. Was trying to revive its biggest superheroes, Batman and Superman, after their previous movies fizzled out. Tons of ideas were tossed around for solo films, but one pitch stood out: Batman v Superman, a team-up movie that promised to pit the two icons together. Andrew Kevin Walker came up with the original script, which Akiva Goldsman later reworked to be less dark. Wolfgang Peterson was set to direct, and the movie even had a release date planned for summer 2004. However, after J.J. Abrams turned in a new draft for Superman Flyby, Warner Bros. Decided to scrap the team-up idea to focus on solo movies instead. Wolfgang Peterson's Batman v Superman is not an origin story, but a deep exploration of the heroes' later lives, where grief, loneliness, and moral ambiguity challenge their identities. Set in a post 9/11 world grappling with shifting values, the narrative uses the ideological clash between Batman and Superman to reflect on the complexity of heroism and the human condition. Superman embodying hope and clarity, and Batman, driven by darkness and vengeance, represent opposing ideals tested by personal loss and existential doubt. Both heroes have lost everyone close to them, but while Superman clings to his moral principles despite his isolation, Batman teeters on the brink of losing his humanity entirely. At its heart, the film is about the rekindling of heroic spirits through intense personal trials and the friendship between Batman and Superman. Peterson's vision intertwines grand themes of ideology and redemption with intimate, emotional storytelling, reflecting heroism's purpose in a morally ambiguous world. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is what you want, what you've always wanted. Another excuse to hurt someone, another call to violence, to cause so much pain that you don't have to feel your own. Batman's arc in Wolf Gang Peterson's BVS is a harrowing exploration of loss, redemption, and the thin line between justice and vengeance. This version of Batman is an older, weathered figure who retired from his crusade as Batman after years of battling Gotham's criminals. Unlike the highly publicized Batman of other iterations, Peterson's Batman remains an urban legend, a shadowy figure whose very existence is questioned by some, reflecting how Batman's crusade may have been worthless in the end, as his war on crime turned out to be futile. His retirement stems from a deep personal crisis following the murder of Dick Grayson, his first and only Robin, presumably by the Joker. This tragedy shattered Bruce emotionally, steering his crime-fighting mission towards vengeance and brutality. Realizing he was becoming consumed by violence and a desire to kill, Bruce hung up the cowl, trying to rebuild his life outside the darkness. However, Bruce finds unexpected solace and joy in a relationship with Elizabeth, a woman who becomes his anchor to the light. Their relationship represents Bruce's most profound connection in years, pulling him out of his emotional abyss and making him more sociable and fulfilled than ever before. However, this happiness is cruelly short-lived. During their honeymoon, Elizabeth is killed in a hotel room, poisoned by Joker toxin, seemingly orchestrated by the Joker, who had been presumed dead for a long time. This sends Bruce spiraling back into the depths of rage and despair. The loss of Elizabeth devastates Bruce, rekindling the pain of losing Grayson and his parents, leaving him utterly devastated and angry, causing Bruce to return to the Batman mantle. His descent into the Batcave mirrors his plunge into darkness as he reclaims the mantle of Batman, not as a hero, but a man fueled by anger and grief. His actions grow increasingly violent and sadistic. He beats a former Joker gang member nearly to death and vows to kill whoever orchestrated Elizabeth's murder. The story culminates in a climactic confrontation with the Joker, where Batman, pushed to his breaking point, stands on the brink of taking a life for the very first time. Bruce chooses restraint, refusing to become a monster he once feared. Bruce's arc concludes not with triumph, but with a painful reaffirmation of his principles, demonstrating the resilience of a man who, even in his darkest moments, refuses to abandon the ideals that make him a hero. So be my guest, but do me one favor. Before you kill him, take off your mask. Don't hide behind it. Don't pretend there's some other part of you doing this. This is your right as a human being, your retribution. So do this as the man who's going to live with it for the rest of his life.
That's how it starts. The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel.
Snyder's Batman, however, represents a Batman who has already crossed that line and abandoned his code. This version of Bruce Wayne is deeply disillusioned, burdened by years of betrayal and failure that has led him to believe that his mission is futile. The death of Grayson, along with years of perceived powerlessness, seems to have broken him, driving him to adopt lethal methods in his war on crime. Snyder's Batman kills, a stark departure from the traditional portrayal, reflecting a character who's lost faith not only in his own ideals, but in humanity itself. Bruce Wayne operates from a place of bitterness and cynicism. His violence is fueled by a sense that his crusade has led to nothing but further loss and darkness. Snyder's Batman story is one of redemption, while Peterson's Batman resists crossing that line. Snyder's Batman seeks to return to it, to rediscover the ideals he abandoned. His arc is about regaining faith both in himself and in humanity. While Peterson's Batman fights to preserve his moral compass, Snyder's struggles to rebuild it, offering a darker yet ultimately hopeful take on the character's evolution.
I'm older now than my father ever was. This may be the only thing I do that matters.
I've spent the last 20 years dictating what's right, what's wrong, which of you can live, which of you can die, my code, but I'm not one of you. None of this is mine, not this sky, these fields, those stars, even our flesh is different. Superman's arc in Wolf Gang Peterson's BVS is a profound exploration of identity, purpose, and the cost of heroism. From the onset, the story paints Clark Kent as a profoundly isolated man, wrestling with whether the world even needs a Superman. This theme of alienation is underscored by his divorce from Lois Lane, who could no longer endure the sacrifices of their relationship. This loss leaves Clark adrift in his personal life, amplifying his doubts about his place in a world that both reveres and resents him. The film's opening scene sees Superman intervening in a terrorist attack, stopping a suicide bombing and shielding the would-be perpetrator from being lynched by a violent mob. This act establishes him as a hero driven not by vengeance, but by an uncompromising belief in justice and due process, but also the idea that he imposes his moral belief on the general public, embodying the moral ideal that even the worst deserve a fair trial. However, as the themes of the story make clear, perhaps Superman is old-fashioned and the world does not need him anymore. As the story progresses, Superman seeks answers in Smallville, returning to his childhood home in an attempt to reconnect with his roots and rediscover his purpose. There, he speaks with Lana Lang, sharing his insecurities and the weight of being an alien tasked with determining who lives and who dies, and whether he should impose his ideals on others even if they violently reject it. Lana's insight draw from her own experience as a nurse, reminding Clark that doing good is its own justification. You don't need permission to help someone. This contrasts sharply with Bruce Wayne's scornful criticism of Superman's unwavering idealism and attempts to impose his idealistic beliefs onto him, branding him an alien freak incapable of understanding human suffering after the death of his wife Elizabeth. Bruce is also shown to be disgusted by Superman's almost fairy tale story-like ideals and belief in good. Despite Batman's antagonism, Superman remains resolute, his actions motivated not by validation but by a genuine desire to do what is right. Clark's internal struggles are further illuminated through visions of his parents. His mother reminds him that humans are complex and often lost, which inspires Clark to see his role as a guide for humanity's better nature. His arc is ultimately about reaffirming his role as a moral compass in a cynical world, proving that his enduring values lies not in his superhuman powers, but his unwavering humanity.
First, I don't believe that the world is broken. Because when we say the world, we're really talking about people. And it's always been my belief that people, at their core, are good.
The world has been so caught up with what Superman can do that no one has asked what he should do.
In Zack Snyder's BVS, Superman's arc similarly grapples with his place in a divided and stressful world, but the tone and focus diverge significantly from Wolf Gang's version. Snyder's Superman is a figure of contention. His actions are viewed as political and scrutinized by a society that views his heroism with suspicion and fear, a society that desperately wants Superman to have some ulterior motive in his heroic actions. The narrative frames him as an alien burdened by impossible expectations and public hostility, contrasting sharply with Peterson's portrayal of Superman as a more introspective hero, rediscovering his purpose, while Peterson's Clark wrestles with personal isolation due to his divorce from Lois Lane. Snyder's Superman finds solace in his relationship with Lois, who anchors him amid the chaos of a world, questioning his motives. Both versions explore Superman's struggle to define his role in humanity. However, Snyder emphasizes the tension between hope and fear, presenting Superman as a polarizing symbol whose very existence divides people. In Peterson's story, Superman finds clarity and reaffirms his place as a guide and protector. Snyder's Superman, on the other hand, becomes a tragic figure, embodying self-sacrifice as he gives his life to save a world that doubted him. Poor Superman. So naive, you'll never really understand us. I have nothing against you. It's your paternalistic meddling I despise. You may have pulled the others along in your tide of self-delusion, but I know what you really are. You're an alien invasion of one, here to rob us of our destiny. Lex Luthor plays a pivotal role in both versions of BVS, but the two interpretations of the character diverge significantly in motivation and execution. Peterson's Lex Luthor is a calculated and charismatic antagonist, driven by philosophical disdain for Superman. Superman is beloved by humanity and seen as a moral beacon and heroic figure. Lex's hatred stems from the belief that Superman's presence stunts humanity's evolution, making people reliant rather than achieving greatness on their own terms. If humanity destroys themselves or finds salvation, then it should be decided by their own free will, not up to Superman to intervene and lead them onto an ideal path.
I'm trying to educate you. We all fall short of his sickening, inhuman perfection. Feel that, Kent. Real muscle. Not the gift of alien biochemistry, the product of hard work.
And he chose us. He ruined Zeus's plan to destroy mankind, and for that he was given a thunderbolt. True! That seems unfair.
Snyder's Lex Luthor, in contrast, is a deeply personal and psychologically driven. In this version, Superman is a controversial figure, admired and distrusted in equal measure. Lex views Superman as a threat to humanity and a personal one. Shaped by years of abuse from his father, Snyder's Lex Luthor equates power with corruption and sees Superman's existence as a challenge to his belief that no one with ultimate power can remain good. His erratic behavior and obsession with discrediting Superman reflects a fractured psyche, more focused on destroying Superman's reputation and legacy than on lofty ideals about humanity's independence. In Wolf Gang Peterson's version, Batman and Superman's alliance fractures under the weight of personal tragedy and clashing values. Batman, devastated by his wife Elizabeth's death, is consumed by grief and vengeance, willing to kill anyone, even Superman, to achieve his goal of killing the Joker. He infiltrates a military base to steal kryptonite and builds a powerful suit to stand against the Man of Steel. Refusing to let Batman succumb to revenge, confronts him not just as an opponent, but as a friend trying to preserve Batman's humanity. Their fight symbolizes their ideological divide, with Superman believing in Batman's ability to rediscover his moral compass. In a pivotal moment, Superman steps back, allowing Batman to decide whether to embrace vengeance or rise above it. Ultimately, Batman chooses restraint, sparing the Joker and reaffirming the ideals he once upheld, leading to a united front against Lex Luthor in the final battle. In Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman, Batman's animosity stems from fear and powerlessness, witnessing the destruction caused by Superman's fight with Zod. Batman sees him as a potential threat to humanity. Unlike Peterson's grief-driven Batman, Snyder's Batman is motivated by paranoia and a belief that Superman must be eliminated for humanity's survival. Manipulated by Lex Luthor, Batman builds a suit and weapons to neutralize Superman, leading to their brutal confrontation. This Batman, morally compromised and hardened by years of violence, undergoes a journey of redemption. The Martha moment forces him to confront his blind rage and recognize Superman's humanity, sparking a transformation back into the hero he once was. In the end, Wolf Gang Peterson's Batman v Superman is a story of grief and redemption, a deep exploration of the two heroes who have lost everything and must grapple with what remains. Their confrontation is more than a clash of strength. It's a battle of values, vengeance versus hope. By the story's conclusion, both heroes undergo profound transformations. Superman's steadfast belief in humanity rekindles his purpose, while Batman, tested by Superman's unwavering faith, rediscovers the ideals he had once abandoned. Together, they prove that heroes can rise above their pain, inspire one another, and find their way back to the light, even in the face of loss. It won't ease the horror, letting justice turn into vengeance. Kill and you become the dark you've spent your whole life fighting.